Alright, last problem. So we're going to do 52 through the end. Okay, let's get going. So we're working on the semester review for the Algebra 1, and we've done, we're working on write in standard form the equations of the line described. So, starting with 52, we know that we need a line in standard form that is perpendicular to this. We know that our perpendicular slope is going to be the opposite reciprocal. I think I misspelled that. This should be an I. To the slope provided. So since it's given us the slope of -4/7, our slope is going to be positive 7/4. I've taken the negative and I've done the opposite, and then I've flipped that upside down to get 7/4. So that's the first thing. We've talked about how you're going to do, you're finding your slope, you're finding your b. So now let's find the b. So in order to do that, I'm going to plug in my x and my y in to the equation y equals mx plus b and look for b. I have an m, I have an x, and I have a y. All I don't have is a b. So let's solve and see if we can figure that out. So I've got 5 is my y, 7/4 is my m, 4 is my x, and I'm looking for b. So when I do the math, 4 divided by 4 is going to give me 1. They'll cancel each other out. So I get 5 equals 7 plus b. In order to get b by itself, I'm going to subtract 7 from both sides. And I get -2 equals b. So now that I've found my b, I have my slope, I have my y-intercept, I can put it in slope-intercept form, which is y equals my slope times x plus my y-intercept of -2. But it's not asking for slope-intercept form, it's asking for standard form. So now I need to convert this into standard form. The first thing I need to do to convert into standard form is to move the x. So I'm going to subtract 7/4x from both sides because that is, and I'm going to take my x along with me. I got to move that with me. So I'm going to get -7/4x plus y equals -2. But there is a problem with that because I'm not allowed to have a negative or a fraction. So I need to get rid of both. And I can do that in one step. I'm going to write this bigger. -7/4x plus y equals -2. The way I need to get rid of that is I can multiply this whole equation by the denominator, which is 4. And since this is negative, I need this to be negative because a negative times a negative will give me a positive, and I need my a to be positive. A must be a positive whole number. Okay? So when I multiply this out, I get that cancels out with that. Oh, I shouldn't have done that. And a negative is a positive, so I get 7x. But I also need to multiply that -4 times my y as well. So I get -4y equals negative times a negative is +8. So I kind of made a mess of that, and the way that I'm going to rewrite that is 7x minus 4y equals 8. These are the same thing, it's just that I didn't, I put a plus, so I put the 4y in parentheses. So this is my answer. This is okay too. All right. Moving on. Hopefully you're getting this. So now, same thing. Perpendicular, I need the opposite reciprocal. So my slope is -1. The opposite is going to be a positive 1 over 1. So my slope is going to be positive 1. I've got my x, I've got my y. So I found the slope. It is positive 1. Now I need to find my b. So I take my equation, y equals mx plus b. I'm going to plug in all the things that I know. I've got -2 is my y. I've got 1 is my m. I've got -1 is my x. All I need now is my b value. So -2 equals -1 times 1, or 1 times -1 is -1 plus b. So now I'm going to add 1 to both sides because my goal is to get b by itself. -2 plus 1 is going to give me -1 equals b. So my equation becomes y equals, my slope is 1, so x minus 1. However, it's asking for standard form. So the first thing I need to do, I need to get slope-intercept form before I can put it into standard form. So I'm going to move my x. I'm going to subtract x from both sides so that I can get rid of x on this side and have my constant, my c there. Then I get -x plus y. However, a must be a positive and whole number. It is a whole number, it's 1, but it's also a negative. So in order to change the negative, I need to multiply the whole equation by a -1. We pick 1 because we don't need to change any of the numbers. We just need to change the sign. So -1 will do that trick. And when I multiply it by -1, a negative times a negative is a positive. But a negative times a positive is a negative. So that changes my y to negative. And a negative times a negative is a positive. So that changes that to +1. So there is my slope, or my standard form for that equation. Okay, so now we're moving on to solving the systems by elimination. We just did this. There's only 4 problems, and then a few word problems on that. So, you ready? What do we need when we are solving systems by elimination? What are we looking for? We're looking for same coefficient and different sign. So we need to, so if it's positive, then we need it positive and negative, or negative and positive. That's what we're looking for. And the reason is we're looking for a way to eliminate one of the variables so that we can only have one variable in the equation. We only want one variable. So here, I've got a coefficient of 10 for my x, and I've got a -10 and -7. Those are not the same, and they have the same sign, so neither of those satisfy here. Here I've got a +10 in front of my y and a -10 in front of my y. Those are the same coefficient and different signs, so we're good. We can effectively eliminate our y. So when we do that, I'm going to add together, basically I'm setting these on top of each other so that I can add them together. So I'm going to take 10x, or -10x and -7x, and add those together. I'm going to take +10y and -10y and add those together. And I'm going to take 10 and 7 and add those together. So when I do that, I get, what color should I use? -10x plus negative 7x gives me negative 17x. 10y minus or plus negative 10y is 0, so those cancel out, which we're happy about. That's our goal. If they didn't cancel out, then that means we're doing something wrong. That's not giving us what we need. 10 plus 7 is 17. So basically we've gotten rid of our y, and we can now solve for our x. So in order to do that, we're going to do our inverse operation and divide by the number that's in front of x, which is negative 17. And they cancel each other out, and I get x equals positive 17 over negative 17 is negative 1. So we've solved for x. So x is negative 1. Now we need to solve for y. So we plug our x back into one of these equations, it doesn't matter which, and figure out what y is, because then basically what we've done is negative 7 times our negative 1 right here minus 10y equals 7. What we've done is now we still only have one variable. We're good at solving problems with one variable. It's when we have two variables that we can't figure it out. So negative 7 times the negative 1 is a positive 7 minus 10y equals 7. So now I'm going to subtract 7 from both sides. And these cancel each other out. I get negative 10y, and 7 minus 7 is also 0. But do not put no solution. You have to figure this out. Go all the way to the end. So I've got to divide by my coefficient of y, which is the number in front of y. I'm going to divide by the same thing. So negative 10 over negative 10. These cancel each other out, and I get y equals, whenever 0 is in the numerator, it is 0. It is not undefined. 0 is okay to be in the numerator. It's not okay to be in the denominator. But when it's in the numerator, it just is 0. And that's okay. We like 0. There you go. So that is the point at which these two lines, if graphed, would intersect. That's the point that they have in common. Alright. So moving on. Now we've got two equations. I've got a coefficient of 10 and 4. Those are not the same. And they both have a positive, so they're the same sign, which is not what we want. I have a 1 in front of my y and a 1 in front of my y. That's good. We have the same coefficient, but we also have the same sign. So we need to do something to prep our equations so that we have the same coefficient and different signs. So we don't want to change any of the numbers, but we do want to change the sign. So I'm going to keep this one the same. But in order to change the sign, I'm going to multiply this one by negative 1. This will then effectively not change any of the numbers. I'll still have a 1 in front of my y, which is what I want to keep because I need the same coefficient. But it'll give me a positive here so that then I'll have different signs. So then I've got negative 4x plus y equals a negative times a negative is a positive. So now when I add them together, when I add my 10x and my negative 4, I'm going to get 6x. When I add these two together, they cancel each other out, which is exactly what we want, equals 3 plus 3 is 6. Now I'm going to divide by the number in front of my x to get x by itself, and I get x equals 6 over 6 is 1. So my solution is going to be where x is 1. Now I've got to find out what my y is going to be. So in order to do that, I plug this 1 into one of these two equations. It does not matter which. So let's do the top equation. So 10 times 1 minus y equals 3. The reason why we're doing that is so that we've solved the mystery of what x is. The mystery of x is 1. So that's no longer a mystery, but the mystery of y remains. We've got to figure that out. So 10 times 1 is 10, minus y equals 3. Now I've got to subtract 10 from both sides, and I get negative y equals 3 minus 10 is negative 7. However, I cannot have a negative y. I've got to then divide by negative 1, divide by negative 1, and I get y equals positive 7. So this up here is going to be 1, 7. Okay? That's telling me that this, if I plugged this in to both of these equations, with this being my x and this being my y, these would both be true statements. That's the point of intersection between those two lines. Okay, moving on. Now here I've got none of these are the same coefficient, so I've got to work on changing my numbers. Here I had both the same coefficient and different sign, so I didn't need to do anything. I just added them together to eliminate. This one I had the same coefficient different and the same sign, so I had to prep it so that I had a different sign. Here I don't have any of that. I've got all different coefficients. So let me see. This one has the same sign. This one has a different sign. So I can do one of two things. I can multiply this bottom equation by a number that would give me to eliminate my x, which would give, I'd look for a number that I could multiply this by that would give me a positive 18. That would then allow me to eliminate my x. Or I can multiply this equation by a number that would give me a positive 4. So both of those I see as being very reasonable and not difficult to determine what number to do that by. So I'm going to multiply this one by a, let's do negative 2, just because I think that's easier. So I'm going to bring this one down here so that I got some room. I got negative 18x minus 4y equals 10. Then I'm going to change, and the reason why I'm using a negative is because I need this x to be positive. And a negative times a negative is a positive. So I'm going to, negative 2 times negative 9 gives me a positive 18x. So I've got the same coefficient, different sign, which is exactly what I want. Negative 2 times y is negative 2y. Negative 2 times negative 16 is positive 32. So these basically cross each other out. I add these together and I get negative 6y equals 42. So I add those together. Divide both sides by negative 6 and I get y equals negative 7. So now over here I can put my y value in, but I still need to find my x. So I'm going to take my negative 7 and plug it in, probably just to this one because that's easier in my opinion. So negative 9 times x plus my negative 7 is going to equal negative 16. I'll add 7 to both sides, and I get negative 9x equals negative 9, so x is going to equal 1. So my value here would be x is 1, y is 7. That's where the point, those two lines would intersect. That's the point they have in common. Alright, last one of this type. Now this one's a little bit more challenging because it's very difficult to see a common relationship or a common thread among those numbers. So one thing you can do is say, all right, little test here, I'm going to figure you out. And I'm going to say, what number can I multiply 28 times what number gives me 70? Because if I want to figure out how to eliminate my x, what number times is going to be 70? So I can figure out, divide by 28, divide by 28, and I know that x divided is going to be, so let's see on my calculator, when I put in 70 divided by 28, I get 2.5. So 2.5 is the number that I can multiply this one by to get 70. And that would then effectively give me the same coefficient and a positive versus a negative number. So when I multiply that by, I take this one and I multiply by 2.5. 2.5 times 28 is 70. 2.5 times negative 12 is negative 30. Y. Double check my math and say, oops, clear. 2.5 times negative 12 equals 30. So then 2.5 times negative 2, 2.5 times negative 2 is negative 5. Alright, so now I'm going to bring this, I haven't done anything to this, so I'm just going to bring that over because I really wanted to get a way to eliminate my x. And in doing so, I've effectively also eliminated, so I can eliminate my x, 70x minus 70x is 0, but I've also effectively eliminated my y. So I get 0 plus 0. But then over here, when I combine these two, I get 15. So I get 0 equals 15, and we know that 0 does not equal 15, and so this would be no solution. So what this is saying is that the only time you're not going to have a solution is when you have parallel lines. So if you wanted to test this out, you could work these into slope-intercept form, and I bet you'd find the slope for both of those lines. All right, last two questions. Eugene Sewell is selling tickets to a spring musical. On the first day of ticket sales, the school sold 12 senior citizen tickets and 4 student tickets for a total of $88. The school took in $38 on the second day by selling 4 senior citizen tickets and 2 student tickets. Find the price of the senior citizen ticket and the price of the student ticket. So I've got senior citizens, and I'm going to put that as X, and I've got student, which is going to be my Y. And I know on the first day, my senior citizen, they had 12 tickets and 4 student tickets. And that, when I multiplied the cost of the senior citizen tickets times 12 and the cost of the student tickets times 4, the number of tickets that they sold, I earned, or they earned, $88. Okay? The next night, they had 4 senior citizen tickets sold, so 4 times the amount of the price of the senior citizen ticket, plus 2 student tickets. Not a very good night that night. And that equaled $38. So the way that we can do this is we can eliminate, as we did above, and we need to find the same coefficient with the different number, different sign. So luckily, I think that this is pretty easy. You could multiply this to eliminate your x. You could multiply it by -3, because that would give you -12, or you could multiply the equation by -2, because that would give us, effectively eliminate our y. We can do either one. Hopefully you're understanding what I'm saying. Let's go ahead and multiply. I like to multiply by 2. I just think 2 is easy to work with. So let's multiply by -2, and I'm picking a negative because I not only have to change the number, because I want my number to be 4, but I also need to change the sign, because if I don't change the sign, when I add 4y plus 4y, I'm going to get 8y, and that's not going to eliminate, that's just going to add to it. So I need to make sure that I change my sign as well. So I get 2x plus 4y equals 88. I didn't do anything to change that. I'm just rewriting that equation. Then I've got -8x minus 4y equals 38 times 2, or -2, is -76. So I need to check and make sure that I'm ready to actually add them together. Do I have the same coefficient? Yes. Do I have a different sign? Yes. So both of those things check out. So now I know I'm going to effectively eliminate one of my variables. 12x minus 8x is 4x. This crosses each other out. 88 minus 76 is 12. So x equals 3. So what is that telling us? That is telling us that the senior citizen tickets were $3. That's a pretty good deal. Then I still need to figure out, what are my student tickets? What's the price of my student tickets? Well, I'm going to come over here and I'm going to pick an equation, and again, I kind of like the ones with the small numbers. And I'm going to say 4 times the x that I discovered, that I figured out, plus 2y equals 38. When I multiply that out, I'll be able to solve for my y. So I get 12 plus 2y equals 38. I'm going to subtract 12 from both sides. I'm running out of room, so I'm going to bring it over here. This is 0. I get 2y equals 38 minus 12 is 26. Divide both sides by 2, and I get y equals 13. So the student tickets are $13. So my answer is 313. This is my x, this is my y. So those are the prices for $3 for senior citizen, $13 for students. All right, now moving on, we got the school that Shawnee goes to. I'm going to let you guys do this last one on your own. Do your senior citizen. It's very similar to that first one, and let's see if you can do it on your own. All right, thanks you guys for watching. I hope this helped, and I know you guys are going to do awesome on your tests. Thanks for studying. All right, see you. Bye.